Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Today I'm going to be testing out Molly Baz's recipe for roasted Brussels sprouts with warm honey glaze. So I've been wanting to try this recipe since I saw Christina accidentally recreate it during the Bon Appetit series, Making Perfect Thanksgiving.
We want you to try the final Brussels sprout. What was the glaze for your Brussels?
It was caramelized honey. Why is that so funny?
Wait.
Why is that so funny? I love it.
And what else?
Chili flake and cherry vinegar. They're laughing and I have no idea why.
So since seeing that episode, I've been really curious whether this recipe or Claire and Christina's recipe is better, and since I've already tried Claire's and Christina's recipe, we're gonna find that out today. I do these Bon Appetit recipe tests every single Wednesday, so if you like this one, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Without any further ado, let's get into this recipe. So for starters, I've got my oven preheating because we need it ripping hot at 450 degrees. I've also got my half sheet pan in the oven so that that can preheat as well. Next up, I've got my 1.5 pounds of Brussels sprouts. I've got these washed, but we need to trim them and halve them. So I'm gonna just cut off the woody stems and then slice across to cut them in half. If any of the leaves kind of fall off, I'm just gonna go ahead and pop those into the bowl as well. So as I'm trimming the woody stem off these Brussels sprouts, I'm trying to be mindful to not cut too high up. If you go up too high, you're going to start having leaves fall off your Brussels sprouts. So as an example of what cutting too high would look like, I should trim this just down here, get that little woody bit off. I'm gonna lose probably these 2 leaves. Yeah, these 2 leaves are gonna fall off. But overall, this little cabbage is still intact. Now if I had cut up higher, say here, all of this would fall off. So you really start to break down the structural integrity of the Brussels sprouts. So these will all fall off as we're shaking. All right, so we've got our Brussels sprouts all chopped up, and now I'm going to go ahead and add in a 1/2 cup of oil. Since this is a Molly recipe, I'm gonna do a couple 3-finger pinches of salt here, and a generous amount of black pepper. I'm gonna just swirl these around and toss them. It's a good idea to use a big bowl here so that you can have some room to get everything moving around. All right, so these look great. While we've still got the cutting board out, I need to cut up 3 scallions. So we're gonna be putting this on the top at the very end. I'm gonna trim off the kind of ragged ends of the scallion, and then I'm just gonna cut these kind of on a bias. We're using both the white and the green part. And we'll just save these until we're ready for them at the end. So I've got the super hot tray. This is 450 degrees, so be super careful with this. And I'm just gonna pour the Brussels sprouts onto the hot tray and then carefully flip them over flat sides down. You can hear how incredibly hot that tray is, so seriously, be super careful here. And you can see that my tray's got a lot of patina on it. I use this for roasting all the time. So the darker your tray is, the more color you're gonna pick up. If you have a brand new tray that's shiny silver, it may take a little bit longer than the recommended bake time to get the kind of caramelization and color on the Brussels sprouts that you're looking for. Cool. So I'm gonna pop these back into my 450 degree oven on the bottom rack, and we're just looking for these to be fully cooked and tender. We're not flipping them, we're not messing with them at all, so this is just to set it and forget it. So while those Brussels sprouts roast, we're gonna go ahead and make our honey glaze. So over medium-high heat, I've got a small to medium-sized saucepan. I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of honey, and we're gonna bring this up to a simmer. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes, and we are having bubbles rising up to the surface pretty regularly here. So now that we've reached a simmer, I'm turning the heat down to medium-low. We're gonna cook this for about 3 to 4 minutes until it's a deep amber color, but we don't want it to be burnt. All right, and the recipe says that this will be very foamy when it's getting to the right place, so we've definitely got a foamy situation going on in here. All right, and so this has been 6 minutes. I'm feeling good about the color we've got here. I am gonna kill the heat, and now we can add in our red pepper flakes. These are optional, but I do like things a little bit more to the spicy side, so I'm putting those in. And now I'm adding in my vinegar. I'm gonna put the heat back on over medium, and now we're gonna add in 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, along with some kosher salt. And now I'm just gonna whisk this continually for 3 to 4 minutes until it thickens up. So the Brussels sprouts have been in the oven for 20 minutes. I'm gonna give them a quick check to see if they're tender enough. All right, so I'm getting some nice brown color on this. Ooh, hot. I'm gonna give it 2 more minutes. All right, and so those Brussels sprouts are done. I'm gonna set another timer here for our glaze. This has been going for 4 minutes. It's not quite thick enough to where I think it should be, so I'm gonna let it keep cooking. I am gonna get the Brussels sprouts out of the oven though so that they don't burn. Cool, so you can see we've got some nice coloration on the top of the sprouts. The little crispy bits are definitely crispy, but I don't think that they're totally charred, so I think they'll still be tasty once they get some glaze on them. I'll let these just hang out here until I'm ready for them. Okay, so the foaming action that we're getting here on the perimeter I think is kind of telling me that I'm getting to a good place. I think this is what I'm looking for. It seems like it's thickening some. You can see that the sauce holds a little bit of a track when I pull the spatula through. So I think we're in a good spot here. So I'm actually going to kill the heat. That was 7 minutes total. All right, so I've got the Brussels sprouts. These have been out of the oven for about 1.5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and knock these into my big mixing bowl. Oh yeah. Got some nice color on the backside. It is not burnt, but it's super, super dark brown, so I like the look of that. Okay, and here we've got the glaze. It's definitely kind of saucier and it has thickened up. We'll go ahead and pour this over the top, just giving this a quick toss around to get everything evenly coated. You can see that that glaze is really grabbing onto the sprouts. Oh my God, it smells so incredible. It's got that really kind of sharp vinegar smell, but it's a little bit sweet too. Really, really nice. Got my reserved 3 scallions that we prepped earlier. Toss again. Then we can go ahead and scrape these out onto a large serving platter. And the finishing touch here is just some fresh lemon zest. We want about 1 teaspoon of it. I know Molly's a fan of the zest and tap, so I'm employing her methodology there. And here you have it, Molly Baz's roasted Brussels sprouts with warm honey glaze. So this looks absolutely incredible. I am super impressed with the appearance. I love the really crispy flat cut sides, the kind of wispy and loose leaves on the top of the Brussels sprouts, all the kind of bits that fell off during the cooking and cleaning process and the tossing. So I think that this looks just beautiful and I am dying to give it a taste. So I'm gonna grab this in the middle here. Really nice flavor. A little bit sweet, little kind of acidic kick from the vinegar. Definitely getting the heat off of the red pepper flakes. It's coming through really well. Texture of the sprout itself was really soft, though. It wasn't crispy like I was expecting based on the appearance. So let's give another guy a try. Get this guy over here. Same situation. Really, really tender. Not mushy and like overcooked and kind of like you would have in like an au gratin. It is surprisingly soft and tender though. Like I was expecting a lot more crisp based on kind of the dark color, the caramelization that we had on, you know, all surfaces of the sprout. So this is a really good recipe, and I mean, I love the flavor profile. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it. If you're only gonna make one version, Claire and Christina's or Molly's, I would definitely give the win to Claire and Christina. The flavor profiles were similar between the two, however, the eating experience of Claire's and Christina's was so much better. The crunchy element from having the chopped pistachios in there was great. I think having the whole Brussels sprouts allowed them to stay kind of crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Whereas with Molly's version, we had halved the Brussels sprouts, so all of the like kind of cut edge was exposed to the sauce and kind of just pulling it in, and I think that's what caused it to become so soggy. Still a really great recipe, still delicious. If I make it again, I would not cut the Brussels sprouts in half, and I think that would definitely help you out a little bit. So I really hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.